Hello and hello and welcome everybody to our pillar strength and movement prep class. We're going to be going through a bunch of different workout exercises today throughout our workout that I hope you're going to all enjoy. First thing that we're going to start off with is going to be our warm-up. We're going to have a cat-cow straight out of our yoga asanas, bringing in some loosening and some awareness into our spine. Then we're going to work on some shoulder retraction, getting our chest nice and open, our back nice and activated. Then we're going to work into our quad rocks. Hey, Sue, how's it going? It's a little late starting here, so we're
no problem.
Just getting started with class. So, as I was saying, we're going to finish up our warm-up with our quad rocks. So working into our hips, our knees, getting a nice little stretch to the hamstring, and hopefully into the quadriceps as well. Then we're going to get into our workout, which is going to consist of one full circuit, starting with the shoulders and the back. We're going to work into our Supermans. Then we're going to practice that same shoulder retraction movement that we're practicing, pulling those shoulders behind us with a little shoulder push-up. So just adding some weight into that. Then we're going to do our eccentric push-up, working through full strength, connecting the back and the chest together through pushing motion, and solidifying everything through the plank, using our full body to connect a nice solid pressing motion away from the ground. Then we're going to get into our dead bugs, get a little bit of movement and activation through the back and all the way down through our legs. And then we're going to get into some leg raises, working through our core and our lower abdominal muscles, finishing off with glute kickbacks and glute bridges. So really just breaking down a lot of fundamental movements today and focusing on some really solid activation for each little area that we're trying to work on that will help a lot with posture, a lot with identifying how to move properly and using our body in a neutral way so that we're not overcompensating on one side or the other. Then we're going to finish out with a thread the needle stretch, our frog pose, and a forward fold. So getting straight into it. Oh, just got to get my timer on here. Okay, now we're going to get straight into it, starting with our cat-cow. So getting our hands down onto the ground, knees down on the ground in our quadruped position. We're going to keep our hands just outside of the chest, right below the shoulders. And here we're just going to drop our spine down, curving the back out, tilting our eyes up, looking up at the ceiling and pulling back, sucking that belly button to spine, curving out the spine and getting a nice tuck up. Dropping down, working on driving that belly button down to the ground and pulling back up, opposite direction, and dropping back down. Good. Nice and easy back and forth. Just get a little twist out, a little side to side, and shake through, getting everything working together there. Next up, we're going to get into our shoulder retraction exercise. So getting into a comfortable position, either crisscross applesauce, folded back onto your knees or standing. We're going to bring our arms out in front, interlacing the fingers, keeping our index fingers pointed forward, thumbs pointed up to the ceiling. From here, we're going to try and drop our shoulders down. So dropping them down away from the ears, and then we're going to pinch the shoulder blades together, trying to squeeze and pinch those shoulders back as we pull our arms back and behind us. So we're just gently trying to pull those shoulders low and away as we move back and forth, moving those hands along a nice forward line. Really trying to open up those shoulders and start activating those back muscles as we pull back and dropping them back forward. Very good. A couple more. Nice, even pace. And relaxing out, shaking out the arms, loosening the shoulders, and feeling everything there. Now, those can be kind of tricky. I hope you're able to get some movement back and forth, or at least bring some awareness as to how to use those back muscles with the shoulder and the chest. All right, next up, we're going to get into our quad rocks. So we're going to extend one leg out forward, and we're going to drop down, folding. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. Starting a lunge. So if you get one knee down, 1 foot forward, we're going to sit our hips back towards the heel, get a nice stretch through the hamstring, and then pop up and rock forward. Twisting ever slightly over the knee, just getting a nice stretch through the front of the leg and the hip, and then driving back, sitting back onto that heel, extending that leg back, maybe even curling the toes up, getting a little extra stretch, and popping back forward. Getting a nice, even rock back and forth. And switching sides. Getting our foot forward. And driving that knee out over the toe, getting a nice stretch, twisting through the front of the hip. And driving back, stretching through the hamstring. Rocking forward, getting that knee out over the toe. And rocking back, getting that nice stretch. Just trying to open up the hips, get the legs moving here a little bit. Feel out that tightness in the hips. Ever present, never leaving tightness in the hips. And rocking back up and finishing out the warm up. We're just gonna hop right into our Supermans. So laying our chest down to the ground, extending the hands and feet out. We're gonna pick our chest and our hands up off the ground with our feet. So we're just sitting on our belly button, keeping those hands up in the air and slowly lowering down, hitting the ground and popping back up for a hold. Nice and high, getting those hands and feet up and slowly lowering back down, tapping and popping up. Holding up at the top, coming back down, getting nice and strong through the shoulders there, getting those hands up high, trying to keep those shoulders low and away. We just got a few more. And lowering down. Last one. And done. Good. Next up, we're going to get into our shoulder push-up. Now, this is where we work into that shoulder retraction exercise we were doing before. So we're going to get into this quadruped position here, either knees down if you would like. You can get your feet extended. But for just the idea of the movement here, we want to try and get most of our weight over the hands. So you got good strength through the shoulders, and keeping your elbows locked out, you want to just drop the chest down. So kind of like that cat-cow, how we were doing with the stomach, moving our spine through the middle. We want to try and drop that spine through the top of the shoulders now, getting that chest lower to the ground, and then pushing that chest all the way back up to the top, driving that chest up. So just moving through the shoulders. Those elbows stay locked out. Belly button sucked up to the spine. We're not curving out the back. And just letting that chest fall down. And pressing straight back through. We got a couple more. and done. Good. All right. Next up, we're going to work into our eccentric push-ups. You can keep that knee down position if you'd like, or extend back into a full push-up. Here, we're just going to drop that chest slowly. So now we're bending the elbows back, keeping them pointed towards the hips. On a slow drop down, a little hold at the bottom and driving back up. Now the idea here is to focus on keeping that weight between both hands nice and even, so that we're not favoring one side as we come down. We're loading the chest nice and even, keeping those shoulders pulled down and away, pinched together in the back. Slowly dropping down, pressing through. Got a couple more. Almost there. And done. Good. Next up, we're going to go into our plank. So we're going to get our forearms down to the ground. This one, you're going to have to pick up your knees, unfortunately, but it's going to be great because we're going to get full body connection here, driving those knees up into the sky, keeping our hips nice and level with our shoulders, driving the ground away through the elbows, trying to get that connection all the way from the toes through to the elbows. Sucking the belly button up to spine, keeping that back nice and flat. Nice and easy. A few more seconds here. And finished. Nice job. All right, next up, we're going to go into our dead bugs. Working on our core and our stability from side to side. It's one of my favorite exercises, and I've definitely been neglecting them now that I think about it over the past few months. So I'm happy to be here doing them. All right, so we're going to lie onto our back, get our feet flat on the floor. We're going to suck the belly button into the spine and get our feet up into the air. Hands go on top of the knees, and we're going to extend one leg and one hand out, opposite-handed leg out, alternating each side. I'm having a hard time giving directions today. Nice even pace. We're not holding, we're trying to keep it moving as we pull that belly button down to the ground, keeping our back nice and flat, keeping our core engaged the whole time. Opposite hand and leg extending out, overhead, and out in front. A few more. And done. Good. Next up, we have our leg raises. So we're going to stay with our back on the floor, extending those legs out. We're going to suck the belly button into the spine again, keeping our back nice and flat. Bringing our feet together. You can bring your hands underneath the hips to get a little bit more leverage. And we're going to pop those feet up into the air and slowly lower down. Trying to keep those legs extended the whole time. Having a nice tight core. Lowering those legs down and driving back up. Nice even pace. Really getting those feet up into the air. If you're having trouble with both feet, you can always bend the knees and do more of like a knee tuck and driving those heels out, or one leg at a time, bringing up those toes. But now it's time to rest and move on to the next exercise. We're going to head into our bird dogs. So Flipping over onto our hands and knees. Now we're going to work a little bit more into the back and the posterior side of the body. So we're going to extend opposite hand and foot out, creating a nice pose, like sucking that belly button into the spine, driving the ground away. Nice, core stable, and dropping down, switching sides, extending that opposite hand and foot out, holding up at the top, and slowly lowering down. We're going to continue at this nice, even pace, getting a little bit of a hold up at the top. We got a couple more here. And last one. And finished. Good. Next up, we're going to hop into our glute kickbacks. Now this is going to work on our hip muscles and obviously our glutes. But what it really does is just works on that drive. Like you're running and if you're sprinting and you're hitting the ground, boom, you're driving, extending that leg out. So we're going to pick one knee up off the ground and driving that heel up and away to the sky, coming back down and driving out. Pointing those toes out towards the ceiling, driving back and forth. Nice even pace, really kicking those legs out. Trying to keep that knee pointed down to the ground. So that as we kick out, we're not opening up to the side, but extending straight back. And switching, getting our other knee off and kicking out. Gotta be careful I don't accidentally break something. Nice, even pace, kicking that foot back. Got to be aware of your surroundings with this one. And don't want to be knocking things over. Almost there, a few more seconds. And done. Good. All right, next up, I want to work into my glute bridges. So we're going to lay flat on our back with our feet flat on the ground. So driving our heels into the floor, we're going to pick the hips up off the ground, getting them all the way up towards the ceiling. So driving through the hips, creating a nice flat line from the shoulders through the hips into the knees. We're going to pop up into this position here. Holding our hips up, getting a nice long hold at the top. And then from here, we're going to really work on the hinge movement of the hips. We're going to slowly drop those hips down to the floor, give a nice tap, and driving back up. Holding those hips up into the air, getting a nice tight hold, squeezing all the way through our bum, getting those hips pointed up to the ceiling. Slowly dropping down. Really working on the hinge movement there, trying to keep that back flat with the hips. Belly button sucked into the spine. Nice, tall, engaged core. So even when we're lying down like this, torso still tall. Tapping down and popping up. Holding those hips high. Last one here, really make it count. Get those hips in the air, drive through the heels, pick them up, and lowering down, tapping at the bottom. Good. All right. Let's see here. So we're a little short on time, maybe did a little too much talking, but I'm going to quickly go through some of the more important exercises. We are a little warmed up here. I shouldn't say important, but maybe challenging is the right word. So we're going to do our push-up, our plank, our dead bugs, our kickbacks, and our bridges. So we've got 5 exercises here. We're going to run through quickly. Starting with the push-up, getting our hands directly below the shoulder, our chest, or hands just outside the chest, directly below the shoulder. We're going to point those hips down towards, elbows down towards the hips, and driving up. Boy, am I just mixing up my words today. Slowly lowering down, getting that chest down to the ground, holding, and driving through. Nice even pace. Nice and even. Driving through. Sucking that belly button and spine, trying to keep those shoulders pinched together. A lot of things to be thinking about in this movement. That's why when I'm doing them nice and slow like this, I like to drop down to my knees. I can still get great work through the chest. And let's finish out there. Very good. Next up, we're going to go into our plank. So lowering down to our forearms. We're going to extend the toes back behind, picking our knees up, holding the body nice and high, sucking that belly button to spine. We're going to lower those hips so that they're nice and level with the shoulders, or bring them up just a tad. If you can see yourself, that'd be a plus, but it's kind of hard. Holding for just a few more. Nice and tight. And lowering down. Very good. Let's see, I said kickbacks after that, right? Oh, dead bugs after that. Whoops. So flipping over onto our back. We're going to bring our knees up towards the ceiling, feet picked up off the ground. Hands are going to go on top of the knees and alternating. Opposite foot, extending out with hand, pulling that belly button down into the spine, keeping our back nice and flat. Oh, I got mixed up. Back nice and flat as we move through here. Going at an even pace, trying to keep those feet and hands up. You shouldn't be dropping down to the ground, maybe just hovering right above or giving a slight tap. You don't want to lose that tension on the muscles. Almost there, and done. Very good. All right, finishing things off with a little bit of glute work. Never hurt nobody. So we're going into our glute kickbacks. So getting our hands directly below the shoulder, our chest right in between each hand. We're going to kick one leg back, extending that heel to the ceiling. Keeping that knee pointed down, belly button stuck to spine. So a nice, even pace. Kicking that foot out. Nice. And straight out, getting that heel nice and high. Just like you're driving off the ground in a sprint. Trying to keep that spine straight. And switch sides. Nice even pace. Bringing that knee back down and driving that heel up towards the ceiling. Nice and controlled. And dropping down. Good. All right. Next up, we're gonna go into our glute bridges, finishing things off. We're gonna lay flat onto our back, getting our heels down to the ground, and driving our hips up to the ceiling, getting a nice flat line, straight from the shoulders through the hips to the knees, sucking that belly button to spine, driving those hips nice and high. Slowly working on that hip hinge as we drop down, tapping and coming back up. You want to try and keep that spine nice and stiff as we're lowering down, just working through the hip motion. So just engaging that core, keeping that tummy sucked into the spine. Slowly dropping down and tapping back up. One more. And slowly dropping down. Done. Good. All right. We're going to finish off with just a couple of stretches here. So the first one we're going to do is going to be our thread the needle. So hands and knees down. We're going to drop one hand to the ground, rotating around, driving that hand through the other side, stretching through back of the shoulder. Nice big stretch. And coming up, twisting, bringing that hand up to the ceiling, extending those fingertips all the way out. Dropping that hand down, dropping the hand to the floor, twisting through to the other side, and stretching through the shoulder. Getting a nice big twist. And coming up the other side, rotating through, extending those fingertips up to the ceiling. And dropping back down. Good. All right, last one we're going to do today is just a seated forward fold. So getting our feet out and extended. We're going to drive our hands forward, getting a nice big stretch. Ideally, reaching down towards the ankles, getting our hands down to the shin, possibly even our toes, and trying to lower that chest down to the knee and the thigh. With each exhale, trying to drop that chest down just a little bit further and further. And extending back out. All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time and hopping in today. If you enjoyed the session,